Hello, everyone. My name is John Howe-Wemett. I am the financial planner here at Generation Capital Management, and this is another episode of John's Top Tips. Today, I want to talk a little bit about sharing finances and cohabitation. So this is a little bit of advice on how to navigate the complexities of dealing with sharing your expenses with someone when you first start to move in with them. We're not really talking about kind of platonic roommates here as much as we are talking about partners that we intend to have a long-term relationship with, who we move in with, share expenses with, and kind of how to navigate those sometimes challenging and complex situations that we run into. So let's dive right in. My first piece of advice is don't keep score. This is kind of a weird thing to unpack, but if we think about it, in a lot of relationships, sometimes we tend to keep track of who spent what or who did what and when and why and for what reasons. A lot of that is a challenge when we're trying to build a healthy relationship, right? And it's kind of indicative of a lack of equality. So if we are looking at a healthy relationship and thinking of what a healthy relationship looks like, equality is sort of the foundation upon which a healthy relationship is built, and keeping score or keeping track of who does what when is kind of indicative of a lack of that equality that we're looking for. So if you feel like you do need to keep score in a relationship, there may actually be larger issues. Why are you keeping score? How can you avoid keeping score? Well, there are a couple of different techniques that we might be able to use to make sure that the way that we're keeping track of our finances and keeping track of who's paying for what doesn't contribute to an overall idea of keeping score in our relationship. If we just count on our partners to do their part of the lifting, and to kind of do their share of the financial, bear their share of the financial responsibility, then we can focus on other things that help to make the relationship a little bit more healthy. One of the things that we can do to help from keeping score is setting clear boundaries. If you do decide to keep all of your finances separate, it's important for each of you in the relationship to know who's responsible for what pieces of your household expenses. And then that helps you to avoid any conflicts that might arise when someone doesn't meet an expectations that you might not have expressed, which leads me to another point of keeping an open line of communication between you and your partner. Be clear about who pays for what. Be clear even about the format for how you're going to reimburse each other, or how you're actually going to pay for those expenses, which expenses are going to come out of whose account. If all the expenses are coming out of one person's account, how are you going to get the money to reimburse that other person? All of these are really small things that might actually trip you up in the long run. So just be sure that you have a strategy for that. My biggest tip here is to actually consider sharing a bank account. If you're in a relationship with someone and you intend that relationship to go long term, eventually at some point you will jointly be responsible for each other's expenses. And setting up a joint account, a joint tenants with rights of survivorship account, could be a really good way for you to start practicing managing money with that person with whom you intend to have a long-term relationship. It's a good way to kind of ease into the managing of finances jointly. You can look at it as kind of a team effort. You essentially, the way it works in my mind is both the two partners, they direct deposit enough money to jointly cover the bills for the household into one account. And then from there, if you decide that you're comfortable with that, you try it out for a few months, you really like how it's working, maybe you put a little bit more in to cover things like date nights or joint household expenses that pop up for things. If you want a new couch or new furniture or anything like that, you toss a little bit more in there so that you can be working towards building a household together. And finances are one of those things that can really trip us up in a relationship. Setting up a joint account with just enough money to cover the bills that you both agree on can really help you to set yourself up for success in the future. Now, if because this can be such a complex issue, if you do need help kind of talking about this, working through it, and trying to develop a successful plan for cohabitation with someone, feel free to reach out to me. We can set up one of our coffee consults. We can sit down for a couple of hours, develop a strategy, have a conversation about some of the things that might be on your mind, some of the concerns that you might have, and work through it with you and your partner. You can reach out to me. My email address is jhowe, Howe, at gencapmgmt.com, and I will be happy to help you out. Again, my name is John Howe-Wemett. I'm the financial planner here at Generation Capital Management, and this was another episode of John's Top Tips.